this was a very different acting experience because in a way, I mean, we were doing like 150 takes of one scene over 3 days of this script because there was 9 different perspectives. You know, when Claire Foy does that incredible speech at the beginning, she's doing that 150 times and she's giving 150% every single time. And because of the bunch of actors that Sarah and Fran and Dee Dee and John, Sarah's brother, put together, the space that we all held for each other to have that meant that it wasn't acting. We were genuinely it felt like we were genuinely changing each other in real time.
As you may know, I'm Stacey Wilson Hunt, and I'm so honored to be here to talk with this incredible artist. So please come to the stage, Jessie Buckley. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I usually do this with everybody else.
I know.
So
See, this is your time to shine.
Yeah.
And you have had an amazing few years and really in such a short period of time, incredible work. And this film is just the latest in a run that is so enviable. So I'm sure all of your peers are very jealous of you, as they should be. And also your Oscar nomination for The Lost Daughter earlier this year too, just amazing. Before we talk about Women Talking, which is my favorite movie of the year, I'm not supposed to say that, but it is 100%. I would love for you to share a little bit with us about your beginnings as an artist. And you happen to be an incredible singer. Have you heard this person sing? Absolutely incredible voice. Please look her up. So tell us a little bit about...
Just give me a drink and I'll sing.
Yes, that too. That too.
It's an Irish thing.
So speaking of Ireland, tell us about where you're from and how that fostered your experience as a singer. And then ultimately we'll talk about that show that you were on.
Well, I grew up in Clarny in County Kerry, which is Southern Ireland. And thank you. She's getting ready for my performance.
She'll be doing a cabaret later. Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess like I grew up in quite a kind of musical household.
Your mother played the harp, I read.
My mom's a
That's
harpist
amazing.
and a singer,
Wow.
yeah. And now she's a music psychotherapist. And my dad writes poetry and is a bar manager. And I don't know, there's, you know.
God, I want to see that movie. Your whole life already sounds like a movie I want to see.
You don't want to
okay.
see that movie. That's the good part. There's always like sub layers to every family. But yeah, they always kind of encouraged us to experience life with that on our sleeves. You know, it was never, I guess we were just always told to kind of look for the expression in life, whatever form that took. And I'm the eldest of 5 and we all do completely different things. Like my brother's a mountaineer, my sister's a nurse, my other sister's an engineer, and whatever kind of path kind of found you, we were told to walk down it. So, yeah.
And when did you know you also had amazing music skills and you play piano as well?
It was probably when my appendix nearly burst doing Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in the
were in
local
agonizing
town
pain,
hall.
but you thought, God, I sound good.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever really think you're ever any good at anything. But I just have always loved it, and I always felt most at home in those places. Like I always felt like I was always better in somebody else's shoes kind of than my own, and I could kind of understand the world better from those places. And I was a bit when I went to school, like I was a bit shy of it. I remember I went to this like music school, this kind of convent music school up the country, and I was always I would get the key and I'd like open the music school a bit earlier so that nobody could hear me practice, because I kind of felt protective of it and a bit shy of it. But I just have always loved it. I would be really crap at anything else.
A lot of people in this room likely feel the same way, which is why we all go into this crazy business. So tell us briefly about I'd Do Anything for those who aren't aware of this juggernaut cultural offering that you participated in.
Well, it sounds desperate, doesn't it? It sounds like I'm really. When I was 17, I applied for drama school. I grew up around musical theatre, and so I thought I would go and do musicals because that was my only peripheral vision growing up. Films belonged to Hollywood.
Right. So you saw yourself not necessarily pursuing a Hollywood career. This was
I didn't
musicals.
think I could do straight acting. Like, I knew I could sing, and I knew I could like get kind of into story through music. But beyond that, I didn't even have a vocabulary for what that might feel like. So anyway, I applied for drama school to do musical theatre, and I didn't get in. And on the same weekend, they had this open audition for TV show which was looking for somebody to play Nancy in the West End. And I thought, well, I'll go and practice for my next audition. So
this was for which musical?
Oliver.
Yes, Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver Twist. And I went in completely blind and completely ignorant. And all of a sudden I was kind of part of it and singing in front of Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Like he was a judge. So it's like if American Idol had Andrew Lloyd Webber as a judge. And she's amazing. I was watching this perform, and you laugh now, but it's just gorgeous work. It's really impressive. I'm sure at the time it felt surreal and strange, but you're very good.
I think it probably did at the time feel surreal, but yeah. I don't know. I kind of look back at that young woman, and I think I would never do that now. I was I think I was so excited to peek behind the curtain. Yeah. You know, I thought it would take 100 years to like be part of this industry. Right. And all of a sudden I was getting a chance to sing and be part of a community that I was so in love with and passionate about and wanted to be part of. And for me, that was all it was really about, like beyond the kind of competition or whatever the hell it was. But I'm proud of that young woman. No.
I encourage you to look this up. It's very endearing.
Don't look at it too much of it.
And she was Andrew Lloyd Webber's favorite contestant. Just throwing that out there. I wish we had more time to go through all of your incredible credits, which I was perusing today just to make sure I'd seen everything. And I have to say, there are so many, including Wild Rose. You play an aspiring country singer from Glasgow. Wonderful performance. HBO's Chernobyl. Fargo. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, also amazing, Charlie Kaufman's movie, The Lost Daughter from earlier this year. And then Men, which we'll get to in a minute, a very distinct movie from Alex Garland that came out earlier this year. Jumping ahead to Women Talking. I've had the pleasure of spending some time with Sarah Polley in the last few months, and my gosh, what a gift to all of us. Did you know the novel Miriam Taves had written before you met with Sarah? So tell me about the meeting with her, and she says that you chose to play this character that we saw on screen. Tell me why you chose her.
I hadn't read the novel. The script was my first kind of interaction with it, and being completely honest, I was like, I have no idea how you do that. Like, what is this? Like, it's so...
Like how she was going to execute it for the screen.
I'd never read a script like that. I'd never read something which actually really excavates the kind of complexities of relationships, not just between men and women, but also between women and women, you know, and actually looking for courage to find something, to move towards something that's unknown. I'd never, ever, ever read anything.
Also,
like
the
that.
novelty of women working in concert, having thoughtful conversations. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in my entire life.
Yeah, and provocative conversations,
right.
You know, and kind of debate, like real life conflict and growth from that conflict. And being honest, like I probably, in the first instance was, I couldn't contain it. But it kept niggling me. I would be like doing the dishes. I was like, what the hell is that bloody film? It's like
so when
annoying.
You feel that way, does it make you want to pursue it because you sort of can't put your finger on it?
Yeah, I was just like super curious about it. I was like, there's something in this. Like, it doesn't need to... I'm actually interested in the unknown knowability of what this might offer me. And then Marieke, I immediately... I read the script and then I read the book immediately. And Marieke, for some reason, just really caught my heart. I didn't understand her, and I think that's why I wanted to get to know her, because she felt very much on the other side of the line of how I probably feel in my life. And I think I was drawn to her because I felt like if I want to move through something, I need to know what that side looks like too. And so, and she was hard work.
She's arguably she's the most difficult character, I would imagine. I mean, you're talking about sort of like what you were forced to do as an actor. I would think she's probably the most difficult to bring to life.
I mean, I guess yes and no. Like, you get to work with an incredible cast like that, and it's so easy, it's so available. You don't, and I think what I wanted, my instinct with Marieke was to not judge her, because I guess the judgment that you could have is that her unpalatability is something which would make you not get to know her properly. So I really wanted to not judge her and find kind of the source of where her pain was coming from. And that source is something that is a legacy. It's not just in the present. It's something that's so
systemic.
It's systemic.
Right.
It's something that's been handed down to her, not just from patriarchy, but from her own mother and from her daughter and from her great grandma. There's something so entrenched that needed to be broken. And I think I didn't really realize at the time what she actually felt like until there was a moment when we were leaving, the moment when we were kind of rehearsing to leave, and I just kind of broke apart. And I was like, and it was like after I'd kind of finally put my hands up and was like, let's go. And then we were rehearsing and I was like, we have to go now, because if we don't, I'll change my mind. And it kind of shocked me of how she made me feel, like that kind of atomic kind of strength. And when somebody gets changed that much through you, it does, but I love her. I feel fiercely protective of her, and I think getting to know that kind of woman and getting to understand that kind of woman, I feel more protective of that.
I love that. And Sarah has talked about feeling protective of these women and of their story. And one thing, it's kind of hard for me to watch this movie and not blame the religious construct with which they live their lives, but also the same system that has created the vulnerability for them to be abused. So how do you see religion as figuring into this story? Do you see it as contributing to the violence, or do you see it as a support system for the women? Because I still have a hard time reconciling celebrating their freedom to practice their faith when the faith is also the thing that's created the system. So I'm still thinking about this sort of weeks after watching the movie, and maybe there isn't an answer, but I'm curious for your thoughts.
I don't know. I'd probably have to go away and think about that. But I think faith is kind of an interesting, I think Sarah's done, like in Miriam's book, it's very much written from a Mennonite kind of perspective and something particular. But
and the author herself, by the way, grew up Mennonite in rural Canada.
Yeah. But Sarah, on purpose, I don't think Mennonite is mentioned as a word once in this script. Yeah. And I guess for these women to embark on a wild act of female imagination, there has to be some faith in some shape or form, whatever that is. Faith that you have to kind of shed, and faith that you have to gain, and things you've got to unlearn and learn, and faith in each other, and faith in kind of what you're kind of beginning to understand. I mean, I don't know if it's a religion, like the kind of, I think anytime you try it, you step into an unknown, you have to have some sort of faith. And in the very act of them all being in this attic for the first time having this conversation, they're stepping into an unknown space where they're actually having to, trust and be with each other. And I didn't experience it as being conditioned by a Mennonite kind of faith. I felt much.
Maybe more community based.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes sense. And I think you're right, the belief in themselves to take this huge risk. And that is the lingering message for me. But there's a lot to think about with this film. I'll be thinking about this movie for a long time. So the movie I mentioned earlier, Alex Garland's Men, which I can't really describe here. You just have to look it up and watch it. But among many other things besides this, it tackles toxic masculinity in sort of supernatural ways. But you said something interesting in this wonderful New York Times profile that you had recently, that the interviewer was asking you about sort of the bookendedness of having that movie earlier this year and then this movie and what that meant to you. And you said, quote, "I want to understand the monster in both of these films." And I was curious for you to expand a little bit on what is that monster you're talking about?
I don't know fully yet. I'll get back to you when I do. I don't know. I think, life's complicated, and I think we wrangle with things all the time, and like the monster gets bigger when you turn away from it, and if you actually look it in the eyes and try to get to know it, maybe then you can transcend with it and through it. And I guess that's what it is. I don't know. It's not like something particular. Like it can be whatever it needs to be for anybody.
So fear, essentially, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to use that later in my life. I'm just saying, leave me alone. I'm dealing with the monster right now. One last thing, and then we'll get to a few audience questions. Sarah Pauly has spoken glowingly of you, as she would. And she said an amazing quote that I'm sure is going to make you feel very embarrassed because you're very humble. She said, "You're very humble. We can see that." She said of you, quote, "I don't think since Marlon Brando or Robert De Niro I've seen this kind of pure power coupled with fierce intelligence." See, I see you demurring as you're sitting there.
I have come dressed as a nun tonight in order
to very Irish of you, extremely Irish of you. But when you hear someone talk about you in that way as an artist at the beginning of what I know will be an amazing career, how do you process something so glowing that someone whom you deeply respect feels about you?
I don't know. You just do your work, and I've been so lucky. I have been so lucky. And like I feel so excited because I've been so lucky to work with people who are brave and bold to kind of pierce the edges of what I've always understood as a woman and as a person in the world. And the people I've got to work with have just opened something much richer that I never expected I would be lucky enough to taste. And it's never just one person, to make a film, to change something in the world takes like an army, and or it takes a whole group of people to do that. And I just feel incredibly lucky to get to do the work that I do. I can't believe it.
Well, you deserve it. So first audience question is from Frank. And actually, I was going to ask about this too. It's a great question. Do you have any tips on maintaining an accent or dialect through a project you're working on? And you have done so many accents. The Fargo accent in particular was fantastic. So tell me a little bit about that process that Frank is asking about. And do you have any tips? Because it's an amazing skill.
No, just practice it.
You're making this all look way too easy.
I don't know. I guess I do different things for different jobs, and for me, accents is a bit like music.
Well, I was just about to say, a lot of singers are great at accents, I have found.
Yeah, I just kind of find I have to find the tune and I just do it again and again and again and again. Sometimes I'll read books but I don't generally like staying in accents. I've never done that yet. If I needed to, I would. But I like coming away from my work as much as I like getting into it. Like I need to release the valve.
You don't take it home at night?
No.
Okay.
I go mad.
Is there an accent that you found particularly challenging compared to others you've done?
I guess the like Glaswegian for Wild Rose, I kind of had to sit in that for a bit longer and kind of just work out, spent some time up in Glasgow for a few weeks before we started shooting and went around and asked for for some milk in Glaswegian accent or something, hoping that they didn't notice and feeling embarrassed that they might have. But yeah, no, I
love it. Well, talking to locals helps, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, Glaswegian, if you just say Spice Girls really quickly, you just sound immediately Glaswegian.
I love that. Constance would like to know, is there something about your process as an actor that has surprised you or shifted in the way that you work over the last few years?
I kind of recently, I really like enjoyed like writing, before I go to set every day. I would just do a lot of kind of
like journaling,
just stream of conscious writing for like 3 pages and
like in character, like as the person.
Well, I always find anytime you open up a book or like open up a script, that world starts arriving towards you. So you start seeing paintings that look like the world. You start reading poetry that looks like the world, or the music start. And so I just collect. I like hoard whatever I'm reacting to, and I put it into a pot, and then I go to set, and it's none of my business after that. Like whatever comes out, and that's what happens. But I find like writing, or even like writing my dreams down in the morning or whatever, just they're all useful, and I don't really want to be conscious of anything I do ever. I just want to I like doing a long, if I have time, like a long prep, as much as I can, and then when I get to the set I just let go.
I love that. And Omri, this question is for kick-ass actor Jessie Buckley, just in case we didn't know whom we were asking.
He's left now. No, he's not. Where are you?
We obviously talked about your music and singing, but he would like to know, what other artistic outlets have you experimented with alongside of your acting? And obviously we talked about singing. Is there anything else?
No, I'm a shit painter. I'd love to be able to paint, can't do that. I can draw half a face. I'm really good. That's my doodle, is drawing half of a face.
Like this or like this?
Just this side of the face, just this side. No, I love cooking. I always feel, I like coming back to like doing something really grounded, I find if your head is away in the clouds all the time, you don't really have anything to grab onto when you do need to come back to it. So when I come, off a shoot or in between shoots, I always feel like I need to have a sliced toast, do some gardening, and,
get back to earth, like literally.
Yeah.
I love that. It is a great tip for just living in general. Final question from Alexandria, and this is a wonderful question as pertaining to women talking. When you're playing a character who has experienced trauma, how do you recover from playing that character and not carry it with you? I guess therapy is very good. I never want to get rid of anybody, and I really keep them in my pocket, and I think thanks very much. I've always feel like I've learned something that I didn't know with each of them, so I never want to kind of throw them out the window. And yeah, that's it really. I think just let it I trust myself. I trust that I can hold it, and the people that I work with, and especially with Sarah, she was so conscious that this was going to be intense. And by the way, you had a therapist on set. You had mandatory, very humane hours. That was part of her mandate. And this set just sounded like kind of a dream work environment.
Yeah, it was really a dream, and healthy and progressive and supportive. And I think it needed to be, because this was a very different acting experience because in a way, I mean, we were doing like 150 takes of one scene over 3 days of this script because there was 9 different perspectives. We were in one location and it meant that they had to go around the room like 9 times. And, you know, when Claire Foy does that incredible speech at the beginning, she's doing that 150 times and she's giving 150% every single time. And because of the bunch of actors that Sarah and Fran and Dee Dee and John, Sarah's brother, put together, you know, we really, the generosity on set and the kind of the space that we all held for each other to have that meant that it wasn't acting. We were genuinely it felt like we were genuinely changing each other in real time. And I think Sarah was, you know, in her brilliance, aware of that before we started and made sure that not just the cast, but also the crew were being supported with that. And, you know, somebody like Dee Dee Gardner, who is extraordinary, should be running the world, you know, she would say, this is just something you put into your budget, you know? Right. This isn't like this shouldn't be just like a kind of one-off thing. This is something that you put into your budget.
Right.
And
I asked
you do
Sarah
better
about
work.
This
you
last week, and I asked her, I said, you know, there's so much of this mythology that comes into suffering to make art, right? And I asked, I know, snooze, right? And then I said, you know, why aren't more productions focusing on these just sort of general humane aspects of what people need? And she made a brilliant point, which is so obvious, which is, for the longest time, nobody who were caretakers of children were in charge of productions. It's like, oh my God, of course. That's it. Just build in these pieces, and Sarah's children were on set. I mean, it just sounds like the way everything should be when people are making art. And I just hope people can take a page from this playbook, because look at what we get, right? And we get to talk to you, and you're so amazing. And thank you for coming, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.